A very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories. Friday evening, there's lots making news. I'm Tracy Shilshi taking you through all of that. Let's start with the headlines. Talks break down again over one rank, one pension. Army veterans refuse to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the 65 war, while Defence Minister assures scheme will be announced at the right time. Army flag marches continue in sensitive areas of Ahmedabad. Curfew still in force in 6 areas as Hardik Patel says the agitation for OBC quota will continue. Pakistani Rangers violate ceasefire again. 3 people are killed and 17 others injured in firing exchanges. Nitish outdoes Modi offers Bihar double the PM's financial package. The Chief Minister unveils development schemes over 5 years costing 2.7 lakh crores. And hundreds of migrants are killed off the Libyan coast in a series of incidents. Top European officials discuss record wave of refugees pouring into the continent from war-torn nations. Army veterans boycotted celebrations that marked the 50th anniversary of the 1965 war today after talks with the Centre on One Rank, One Pensions failed to end the deadlock. They refused to accept the government's new proposals during a meeting with the Defence Minister. In fact, Manohar Parrikar assured them that the Prime Minister will announce the scheme, but in due course of time.
The numbers have grown in the last 8 weeks at the Jantar Mantar in Delhi. And so has the resolve to continue protest until they get one rank, one pension implemented. There was yet another meeting with the Defence Minister on Thursday night, but there was no breakthrough. There were reports that the pension scheme could be announced on the day India commemorates 50th anniversary of 1965 war with Pakistan. But on Friday, Defence Minister said that PM will announce the scheme when the time comes.
In principle तो अप्रूव कर दिया. अभी थोड़े बहुत जो कुछ गैप्स है वो भरने की कोशिश चालू है. गिव इट सम टाइम फॉर कंप्लीशन. अभी प्रधानमंत्री जब उसमें खुद उनका ऑफिस खुद ध्यान दे रहा है तो मुझे लगता है कि ये यही दिन इतना दिन दे दो, ये करो, इससे काम नहीं होगा. वो सॉल्व करने की कोशिश पूरी जाए.
The ex-servicemen boycotted the war anniversary celebrations in protest against the delay, and they have threatened to intensify the protest in coming days. They also seek a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
मैं पर्रिकर साहब को आपके माध्यम से अप्रोच करके हाथ जोड़ता हूँ. प्लीज, आज ये जो आग है नेशन के दरवाजे पे पहुँच चुकी है. इसमें और डिले न करें. इसमें बहुत बड़ा नुकसान होगा. ये चेतावनी नहीं है, ये एक मेरी आरजू है, आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है. प्लीज यू मस्ट एक्ट क्विकली.
आपका जो प्रोटेस्ट है जारी रहेगा, तेज होगा, लेकिन हम 1-2 दिन और वेट करेंगे. अगर प्रधानमंत्री जी हमें बुलाते हैं तो हम उनका जरूर वेट करेंगे.
At least 3 sticking points remain in implementing the one rank, one pension. Apart from the money involved, there is disagreement over the date from which to implement the scheme. The government is reportedly upset that more veterans are joining the hunger strike, which began after the PM did not announce OROP during his Independence Day speech. At least 6 of them continue with their indefinite fast. 2 others have been hospitalized over the last couple of days after their condition deteriorated. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Over to Gujarat now, where curfew was relaxed in 3 areas of Ahmedabad today. Police are preferring to be cautious, though, with the Patel quota agitation yet to die down. 6 places are still under armed security.
The traffic's back on the streets. Schools are open again in many areas. Gujarat is slowly returning to normalcy. With no violence reported in the last 24 hours, curfew was lifted in 3 out of 9 areas in Ahmedabad on Friday.
बच्चों के स्कूल भी बंद थे. अभी आज से नॉर्मल हो रहे हैं. आज से नॉर्मल हो रहे हैं. स्कूल भी खुल गए हैं. अभी शांति है. ऐसा ही माहौल कायम रहे गुजरात में, कायम ही शांति रहे. लोग ये चाहते हैं, हम चाहते हैं.
जो इस तरह से जो आंदोलन हुआ है, अगर आप अपनी बात रखना चाहते हैं सरकार के सामने तो उसे अहिंसक तरीके से रखिए. इस तरह से हाल ही में जो मंदिर जा रहे थे वो बाप बेटे की मौत हो गई, तो इस तरह से जो होता है तो वो हिंसा होती है और अल्टीमेटली हमको ही नुकसान होता है.
Meanwhile, the army continued flag marches in 6 areas where curfew is still in place. Schools also remain shut in these places. Ignoring appeals from Chief Minister Anandiben Patel, Hardik Patel, the spearhead of the Patel quota agitation, has refused to call off the protest, asking farmers to join it.
500 लड़के को जॉब मिलती है, 500 सिर्फ 10 साल में। 8 से 9 हज़ार किसान आत्महत्या कर लेते हैं और जॉब नहीं मिलने की वजह से बच्चे जो छोटे होते हैं उसकी माँ विधवा होती है, वो आत्महत्या कर लेता है। ये सबके दिल की आहट है और इसी वजह से आरक्षण का मुद्दा चला हुआ है और मैं मानता हूँ इसे राष्ट्रव्यापी बनाना है।
The clashes between the police and protesters claimed 10 lives. The Gujarat High Court has asked the state's CID to investigate the death of a protester, Shwetang Patel, in police custody. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Hardik Patel, the man spearheading the Patidar agitation, has no plans of slowing down. Ignoring appeals to call off the agitation by Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel, Hardik told Rajya Sabha TV that the demand for quota will continue.
आप लोगों का अगली रणनीति क्या है इस आंदोलन को लेकर, क्योंकि सरकार आपकी मांग इस वक्त मान नहीं रही है। बातचीत का क्या कोई जरिया खुला हुआ है? क्या ऐसा कुछ है कि बातचीत का कोई आपके पास ऑफर है, आप सरकार से बात करेंगे?
पहले हमारे बच्चे जो शहीद हुए उनको पहले न्याय मिले, बाद में बातचीत कर लेंगे।
क्या आपकी जो मांग है आरक्षण की, उसमें कहीं कोई गुंजाइश है, कहीं किसी तरीके से बीच का रास्ता निकालने की कोई ऐसी गुंजाइश हो?
आरक्षण की वजह से पूरा देश आज पिछड़ा रहा है, 25 या 30 साल पीछे चला गया है। सभी को आरक्षण दे रहे हो, अच्छे लोगों को आरक्षण दो जो इस देश को विकास कर सकते हैं। हमें आरक्षण हमें नहीं मिल रहा है इसलिए सबको ना निकाल दो, ये नहीं कह रहे। आरक्षण हमें ज़रूरत है तो हमें दे दो, या फिर लोग कह रहे कि तो सब मांग रहे हैं तो सबको दे दो आरक्षण। कर देश प्रगति के राह पर चलता है तो, या फिर आरक्षण हटा दो।
क्या इसके बाद राजनीति एक विकल्प है आपके लिए? राजनीति में आना एक विकल्प खुला रहेगा?
हम राजनीति में नहीं जाएंगे, हमारे दोस्त जाएंगे और उनको हम पूरा सपोर्ट करेंगे।
आपका राजनीति से कोई लेना देना नहीं रहेगा?
नहीं, राजनीति से लेना देना नहीं, राजनीति से तो ये हिंदुस्तान चला हुआ है, हमारे पास रिमोट रखेंगे राजनीति को बदलने के लिए।
हार्दिक पटेल का कहना है कि वो राजनीति में शामिल नहीं होंगे, आएंगे नहीं, लेकिन राजनीति से दूर भी नहीं रहेंगे। कैमरा पर्सन डी के पांडे के साथ विशाल दहिया, राज्यसभा टीवी, अहमदाबाद।
And now turning focus to the markets and shrugging off the volatility in the entire week, markets gained for the second successive day today. However, both Sensex and Nifty ended well off their intraday highs. At its day's high, the Sensex rose over 450 points, but it ended just about 150 points up, while Nifty managed to settle above the 8,000 mark. The gains in the last 2 days come after Sensex lost nearly 3.5% this week, which was its biggest decline in 3 months. Markets around the world also plunged earlier in this week as a slump in Chinese shares took place, but some calm returned after Beijing rolled out strong policy easing steps late on Tuesday. Now, the government is venturing into a rather prickly reform involving the privatization of banks. It plans to, in fact, set up a bank investment company that will bring down its stake in select public sector banks to below 50%. At least 2 expert committees have suggested this over the last 2 decades, but the task is easier said than done. Here's a report.
2 weeks after it announced its 7 rainbow reforms for the banking sector, the government is working on yet another ambitious plan to privatize some public sector banks. It holds majority stake in all 19 of them, and all are hit by a liquidity crisis.
The government must decide that whether they will continue to hold 52% share in the public sector banks, they must bring it down to the level of 33%, so that the further equity of these banks can be diluted to raise capital. And this problem of budgetary allocation by Government of India can also be stopped.
In 1998, the M. Narasimham Committee on Banking Sector Reforms recommended dilution of government stake in public sector banks to just 33%. The report was, however, not implemented. In 2014, the PJ Nayak Committee suggested a stake dilution below 50%. But that needs amendments to the Bank Nationalisation Act of 1970 and 1980 and also the SBI Act. Not easy for a government that doesn't have a majority in the Rajya Sabha.
No clear roadmap is still available as to whether that is on, not on, or if on, what is the timeline, etc., etc. Although there is a talk that yes, government will dilute some of the stake and will raise capital from the market.
Government holds 58 to 60% stake in the top 5 public sector banks, including State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank, Canara Bank and Union Bank of India. The government's plan means the divested banks can decide employee pay packages or additional capital from the market and also be free from government oversight. However, any move to privatize banks is likely to face stiff resistance from trade unions and opposition parties. This is Krishnanand Tripaঠি's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And for more on this story, we're joined this evening by Subir Gokarn, who's the Director of Research at Brookings India. So thanks so much for joining us this evening. First of all, in the area of banking reforms, what are the areas that need urgent attention?
Well, I think the program that was announced by the Finance Ministry a few days ago, Indra Dhanush, as it's called, 7 steps or 7 components, really captures the spread of problems. There are problems related to asset quality, which is an immediate concern. This is preventing banks, I believe, from expanding their lending to their traditional customers, small and medium businesses and so on. And there are longer-term issues of particularly the challenge of raising capital to comply with what are fairly stringent norms laid down by the Basel III framework. There are issues relating to governance and management, which are also being referred to in this whole package. That's just 3 that I mentioned. There are others. But all in all, I think we have to recognize that the public sector banks are in a relatively delicate state now and require not just a bit of tweaking here or there, but really a very, very holistic and integrated kind of program to deal with the problems that they're facing.
Absolutely. And, talking about such reforms, banking reforms, anything to do especially with finances, of course, we have to look at the political atmosphere, considering the fact that there's so much discontent, so much, discomfort really, not just from political parties, but from farmers as well on the land bill. Is this the correct scenario for the government to go ahead with something like this? Do you think the government will actually go ahead with this?
I think we cannot afford to be in a situation where almost 80%, perhaps 70-75% of the banking system is hobbled and is incapable of performing its basic functions. So, yes, the political environment, the political atmosphere is something that needs to be taken into account when looking at particularly somewhat more radical changes. But I think there is, the risk of being too late here. There is also an opportunity which we have to recognize, which is that the public sector banks as a whole recruited very heavily in the 70s and early 80s. And a very large number of people, the people who joined the bank then at all levels, managerial, clerical and lower, will retire over the next 5 years. This is actually true of government in general, but the banks in particular have faced a very significant demographic transition. And in a sense, that provides an opportunity to do a lot of things because at least the resistance from within clearly will be somewhat less, given that many people are facing a retirement horizon and their interests will obviously be protected. But it gives the banks an opportunity to re-engineer their internal structures, their organizational framework, their roles and responsibilities, and really align their organizations to the needs of banking today and in the future, as opposed to having to deal with a legacy that is not necessarily very efficient.
All right. But we also have the RBI governor advising the government to limit uncertainty while unveiling those reforms. What do you think he's trying to suggest at?
Sorry, I did not quite get the question.
The RBI governor has, in fact, advised the government to limit uncertainty when you unveil these reforms. This, of course, keeping in mind, like we were talking about, political compulsions as well. Do you think that is also something that he is hinting at?
Well, I don't think I can interpret the governor's statement, but I think the context in which this kind of advice is being given would really refer to the importance of addressing the whole series of problems together. And I don't think it makes sense to take it, as I said, in a piecemeal fashion where you do something to solve an immediate pressure, but then don't take it forward, don't stay the course on the more difficult but also more important reforms. And if it's not done as a package, I think there is a risk that things will not improve. So perhaps that's the message that he was trying to convey.
All right, Subir Kogan, thanks so much for joining us, helping us understand this story a bit further. We'll, of course, be keeping an eye out on this story.
Thank you.
Now on to poll-bound Bihar, and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has offered investments worth 2.70 lakh crores today. The figure is more than double of what Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced just days before during a rally. It comes 2 days also ahead of a mega rally of the JDU and its allies to counter the PM's rallies in the state.
Days after dismissing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's special package for Bihar as a ploy to lure voters, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar unveiled a 2.70 lakh crore development plan in the next 5 years. The schemes include free electricity and drinking water connection in every household. The 7-point development has special focus on youths, women, unemployed and young entrepreneurs.
जिन योजनाओं को चला रहे हैं, क्रियान्वित कर रहे हैं, उनको तो दृढ़तापूर्वक आगे क्रियान्वित करना ही है। और उन सभी कार्यक्रमों में जो आवश्यकता है उसके अनुरूप धनराशि उपलब्ध कराते हुए उसको ठीक ढंग से मॉनिटर करते हुए, अनुश्रवण करते हुए इस काम को तो आगे जारी रखना ही है। लेकिन उसके अलावा आखिर हम जहां पहुंचे हैं, हम जिस मंजिल तक पहुंचे हैं उसके आगे भी जाना।
Though he denied that the announcement was an unofficial election manifesto, opposition parties termed it as a vision document.
समय आ गया है कि अपना लेखा जोखा लेके बिहार की जनता के पास जाएं, उनको बताएं कि हमने क्या किया है, भविष्य में क्या करेंगे वो बात की बात है। आज तक उन्होंने क्या किया है बिहार की जनता को बताएं, तब शायद कुछ गुंजाइश बन सकती है।
Nitish Party JDU will hold a mega rally with its allies at the iconic Gandhi Maidan in Patna on Sunday. It is termed the Swabhiman Rally, which is aimed to counter Modi's jibes at the alliance leaders, including Nitish, during his previous rallies.
महागठबंधन की रैली है, इसमें शामिल सभी पार्टियों के प्रमुख नेता इसमें शामिल होंगे। राष्ट्रीय जनता दल यू, कांग्रेस पार्टी।
Meanwhile, BJP and its allies will meet on Monday to finalize shares of seat to contest in the forthcoming polls. Ahead of the meeting, allies LJP and RLSP have sought more seats for themselves. They want same share of seats JDU had in the last polls when they were in alliance with the BJP. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And up next, remanded to a 5-day custody for questioning, a captured Pakistani terrorist claims he was planning to set up base in Kashmir for a Lashkar-e-Toiba outfit.
"98 towns to become smart cities. Urban upgradation project underway. On finances, investments, logistics and more. What's the way forward? Watch The Big Picture at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, Pakistani Rangers violated ceasefire along the border posts in RSTV and Arnya sectors in Jammu. 3 people were killed and 17 others were injured in the firing. The incidents had political repercussions in the state as well.
3 people killed and 17 injured. Pakistan resorted to unprovoked firing along the line of control in the civilian areas of RSTV and Arnya sectors in Jammu. The BSF retaliated, resulting in heavy exchanges. Army personnel said that firing was so heavy that shells landed deep inside the villages.
सर ये बम पड़ा है, पाकिस्तान का बम आया है, वो पड़ा है सर। अपने कमरे अंदर बैठे सर नाबी में, तो बाहर से वो जो फिंगरे हैं बाहर पड़ा है वो दरवाजे के सामने में, तो सर अंदर वो फ्रेंचर कर गया सभी को।
Even as the former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah called for cooler heads, JNK Deputy CM Nirmal Singh said that the international community should declare Pakistan a terrorist state.
They are desperate because another militant has been captured alive. Now diplomatically Pakistan is isolated. This is the right time to declare Pakistan as a terrorist state.
The opposition hit out at the government for not stopping the repeated ceasefire violations.
Ever since this government has come into office, the activity on the line of control and the international border, which has resulted in numerous civilian casualties and deaths, has been unceasing. Question is, Mr. Prime Minister, that there is provocation after provocation from Pakistan. How do you intend to respond to it?
What is happening today in the border is a reflection of the frustration of what Pakistan underwent 50 years ago. Today we are commemorating the 50th anniversary of 1965 war, which India won. And Pakistan, which lost then, today is venting out its frustration.
The fresh round of ceasefire violation comes ahead of a meeting between Director Generals of Pakistan Rangers and Border Security Force in New Delhi on September 6th. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's take you through other news updates from across the country and nationwide. A local court remanded the Pakistani militant captured yesterday in police custody for 5 days in Baramulla district. 4 other associates of Sajjad were killed in a 2-day-long operation after the army intercepted them while they were trying to sneak across the border in Uri sector. The army killed 5 militants and an overground NSC and K activist in Nagaland on Friday. 2 more activists of the National Socialist Council of Nagaland faction were injured in the operation in Tuensang district. The group of militants had opened fire on the security personnel when their vehicle was flagged down for checking. The CBI took over the ambulance scam case against former Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, Sachin Pilot and other members of the Congress party. The case relates to irregularities in awarding the tender. Aurangzeb Road in New Delhi will be renamed after former President APJ Abdul Kalam. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announced his decision today after getting clearance from the Union Home Ministry. International news now. In a truck full of corpses and a shipwreck off the Libyan coast have intensified Europe's migrant crisis. Hundreds are feared killed when a boat carrying around 500 migrants sank near Libya, while 70 bodies were found in an abandoned truck in Austria. Here's a report.
Twin tragedy for migrants in the last 24 hours, intensifying a crisis that is overwhelming Europe by the day. In Libya, search is on for survivors from a boat that sank with 500 migrants. According to officials, half of them were apparently locked in the ship's hold when it capsized. A Swedish ship brought some of the victims and survivors to the Italian coast.
This is one of the tragedies we have seen a lot in the Mediterranean. It is the first time for the Swedish crew and the Swedish ship. Unfortunately, it's one of many in total.
طبعا رحنا مهاجرين وطبعا غير شرعيين معروفة هاي وغرقنا بالبحر غرقنا القارب تعبان وهي وغرقنا وماتوا معنا ناس واجوا غفر السواحل الليبيين انقذونا وبارك الله فيهم يعني.
Meanwhile, in Austria, authorities said there were more bodies than initially estimated in the back of a trunk found abandoned. Over 70 bodies, including that of women and children, were found. 3 people have been arrested in connection with this case and a probe is on.
Zum tragischen Unglück zu Tode gekommen sind. Bei diesen 71 Personen handelt es sich 59 Männer, es handelt sich 8 Frauen und 4 Kinder, davon ein 1- bis 2-jähriges Kleinkind, ein Mädchen, 3, 8 bis 9, 10-jährige Buben.
The incidents came as top European officials were huddled in the Austrian capital, partly to discuss the record wave of refugees pouring into Europe from war-torn countries in the Middle East, Africa and Asia. So far this year, almost 3 lakh desperate migrants have landed in Europe by sea, surpassing last year's record already. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Climate change has dramatically changed sea levels. According to NASA, global sea levels worldwide rose an average of nearly 3 inches since 1992. And it's likely to get worse, with water levels continuing to rise at roughly 3 millimeters per year. NASA has warned this is likely to displace hundreds of millions of people along the coastal areas. The space agency is prepared to catalogue the disappearance of Earth's coastlines in rich scientific detail. Scientists also say that while some of the effects of human-induced climate change are irreversible, there is still time to manage the impact that it will cause.
NASA has been measuring the sea level rise from space for about the last 23 years using a series of missions that we've flown jointly with the French space agency CNES called satellite altimeters. And these directly measure how high the sea level is going, and they're one of our most powerful tools for understanding human-caused climate change.
And now let's get you more news and updates from across the world in Global Buzz. A Thai court on Thursday issued an arrest warrant for an unnamed suspect in a riverside blast which took place just a day after a shrine was bombed in central Bangkok. The suspect appeared in a security video in a blue shirt, kicking a bag into the water near a busy pier. The explosion, though, caused no casualties. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un termed the new accord between North and South Korea as a landmark occasion which was reached on the strength of North Korea's armed forces and its nuclear arms. The two sides had on Tuesday agreed to open a new channel of dialogue. Staying with North Korea, heavy rains have killed 40 people and stranded thousands. More than 11,000 people were forced to leave their homes in the northeastern city of Razin near the border with Russia and China. Following the downpour, Chinese authorities sent trucks, forklifts and other heavy equipment to help with relief efforts. All right, now some cricket action, and rain played spoilsport on the opening day, washing out more than 2 sessions of the final test between India and Sri Lanka in Colombo. Earlier, India were reduced to 50 for 2 after put into bat first by the hosts. Sri Lanka grabbed 2 early Indian wickets before rain stopped play. Chiteshwar Pujara was unbeaten on 19 and skipper Virat Kohli was on 14. The pair added 36 for the third wicket. The series is locked at 1-1. India is looking for its first test series win in Sri Lanka in 22 years.
In the gap at mid-off. That was pitched up. In fact, was...
And now let's get you more updates from the world of sports in Sports Beat. The BCCI Working Committee met today to discuss the way forward for Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals, the two teams that have been slapped with a 2-year suspension from the IPL. Former BCCI President N. Srinivasan also attended the meet. Khushbir Kaur, India's national record holder in the women's 20-kilometre walk, finished a disappointing 37th at the World Athletics Championships. She completed the race in 1 hour 38 minutes and 53 seconds, way below her personal best of 1 hour 31 seconds. Former world champion Vishwanathan Anand was held to a draw by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave of France in the 5th round of the Sinquefield Cup. Getting his third draw besides 2 losses, Anand took his tally to 1.5 points out of a possible 5 and with just 4 rounds to go. Lionel Messi bagged the UEFA Best Player in Europe award for the second time for his role in Barcelona's treble-winning campaign. Messi finished ahead of Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo and clubmate Luis Suarez. And that's all we have for you on the news tonight from the entire team here. Good night and have a great weekend.